Greetings and salutations, this is Imperator Vespasian and his trusty sidekick.
Hello.
We're going to be taking a look today at the Chinese infantry for bolt action Second World War. These are early, all my stuff is early war, so it's 1937 to 1940 when Japan invaded China, and you can also use them for the war between Russia and China as well. I'm going to sort of group all these together. There's three, well, possibly four types of unit you can have for the Chinese army. If you check out the Chinese rule book, which is, if you've been watching the rest of this series, you know this is a Chinese rule book which is available from Warlord Games for free. You can download it for absolutely nothing. We have all the units listed in here. Now I'm just going to run down these and then tell you what amendments we've made, because we've made a few amendments ourselves. First thing I should mention is the figures are all Germans, painted up as Chinese, which means they're in dark green jackets, puttees and the German helmet. The biggest difference is the fact that I've added a sword to the officer. I'm going to be making some more troops armed only with close combat weapons, which should be quite interesting when I get around to doing that, but that's a project for later. So, first I should mention two special rules which some Chinese infantry have. First of all, you get the endless numbers special rule with the Chinese army. This is the same as the Russian army book. Basically, you get a free unit of green troops. Basically, a free unit of a free rifle section. It's classed as green, which means it could technically be really rubbish, or it could go up to regular infantry if you roll a 5 or 6 in your morale. So, you know, all sorts of things. Just check out the green special rule. And so every single Chinese army gets one of these units free, which is very useful because it means you don't have to pay for an entire unit. Although they are green, they might not be that good. It does give you additional firepower. Next thing is unit size. The Chinese army average squad was a 14-man squad with one of the men carrying a light machine gun and the officer and two more troopers would carry submachine guns. This was the German design of the unit. Germany created this army, so they use the German design. You don't have to use the additional SMGs because maybe the Chinese at this point didn't have them. We're starting the war with a fully equipped Chinese army. Basically the Chinese Nationalist Army, which was smashed by the Japanese. So it would have been fully equipped with all the equipment it needed. So all of our units are to full strength with a light machine gun and two submachine guns. Yeah, so I'll just mention. No, I'll get to that later. Let's just go unit by unit, shall we? So you've got standard Chinese army unit. Which is a 14-man unit with NCO. It's a regular unit, so it's just regular infantry with morale of 9. That's alright, that'll put you back 191 points, and it's exactly what you see here. Then you get the reserve infantry unit, or as the Chinese book puts it, I'll just find the inexperienced infantry section. That will be cheaper. Basically that'll put you back about 150 points if you're going to include the machine guns. They have a special rule, and the special rule for your inexperienced infantry or your reserve infantry, basically troops who've just been conscripted, is World of Wonders. And what that does, if you're within 12 inches of an airstrike, your unit gains an additional D3 pins. Because basically you're afraid of the aircraft, like scary aircraft flying over.
Terrible.
Yeah, so you get D3 pins, even if it's nothing to do with you, you still get D3 pins. Also, all reserve infantry units or inexperienced infantry units are not allowed to assault enclosed tanks, because basically you're terrified of them. So you're not allowed to assault enclosed tanks. The regular Chinese nationalist troops, regular troops, can assault tanks. They all carry anti-tank grenades, so they're more than capable of assaulting tanks. Then we've got a unit, basically veteran infantry. Now, the veteran infantry, the closest you can get to it is the Ma clique, who Ma stands for Muhammad in Chinese. They were the Muslim soldiers who were the main part of the Chinese Nationalist Army, and they were, well, Muslim, so they were particularly good troops. Mostly consisted of the 26th Division, although they were amalgamated into the main Chinese army. They are tank hunters and are fanatics. So
everything.
Yeah, they're basically pretty good troops. I did think of upgrading them to make them tough fighters, but that's something I sort of toyed with the idea, because a lot of them carried swords for close combat as well as the normal weapons, which would make them tough fighters. But I decided that given that we're doing the very early war, I wouldn't make them tough fighters, because they would have been more trained to fight as Europeans. As the war progressed, by about late 38, 39, then you were getting into the nitty-gritty of using swords in close combat, because things were getting particularly desperate. Yeah, and also they were a terror weapon. The Chinese nationalist troops went in very handy with cutting people's heads off. Very popular among the Chinese and the Japanese. And it's funny, the Japanese are the ones that get all the bidding for, hey, stop cutting people's heads off. But no one mentions what the Chinese did. No one mentions what the Russians did or anybody else. So yeah, that's the basic overall Chinese army. Chinese infantry. So you have your basic Chinese nationalist troops, and then you have your reserve infantry, who are your conscripts, who aren't the best of troops. They're green, so you know that's not good. And then you get the Ma clique, the 26th Division, who are your elite soldiers, basically like your Russian Guards, your British paratroopers. They're elite troops. They're all veteran. They're fanatics, so they never give up their fights to death. And they're tank hunters, which is very useful against enemy tanks, because they'll carry anti-tank grenades. So that's basically that. I will now have to add a couple of other bits of information. We've added 2 additional special rules to the army. First of all, ammunition carriers. The Chinese army used ammunition carriers who were basically children, usually around 10 years old.
Like Matrix?
Yeah, like the Matrix, yes. Basically, the Chinese army was like the Matrix. They used children to carry ammunition and load guns. So every unit would have at least one child to carry additional bits. They're small, they can run through small holes and fetch and carry for the rest of the soldiers. And for the Ma clique troops, they perform builder services too, which I'm not going into because this isn't an 18-rated channel. And so because of that rule, we're going to allow the light machine gun to not officially act as a team. So you don't need another rifleman to actually man the gun, because there would actually be a small 10-year-old boy handing the ammunition. If you watch Flowers of War, who is the small boy? He's the ammunition loader, the boy who the Chinese sniper smuggles into the church. Oh, long story. There's a small boy and the sniper's trying to save him. He's wounded. He's one of the characters. He tries to save him, and he dresses up as a little girl so the Chinese don't kill him. No. It's a long story. It's a long story. But yeah, that is basically what happened. Yeah, it's quite scary really, but then again the Russians used the same sort of thing. The Germans had small boys armed with weapons like Panzerfaust taking out T-34s. As a German 14-year-old boy took out, was he 14 or 13? Took out, I think, 3 T-34s with Panzerfausts. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, because I obviously do that in my spare time.
Yeah, but I mean, by this age, you would already be in the regular army.
No, thank you.
No, if you were in China, you would be in the regular army. And you'd have grown up by now, because you'd have seen half your mates die. So, you'd be...
You say I'm not grown up?
No, you'd be a combat veteran.
You say I'm not grown up?
No, I'm not saying you're not grown up. What I'm saying is you live in an unbelievably privileged time. In the Western world, we haven't fought a real war, for a long time, for 60, 70 years. So we haven't had enemy planes bombing our town. We haven't had enemy tanks driving through the town, rounding people up and shooting them. You're really privileged. You don't know how privileged you are. And now we're importing a load of people who don't have the same values. So hey, it looks like we're going to have another one. It's going to be fun. The next special rule is family honour. The Chinese army put units from the same town, and usually the same family in the same unit. People from the same town. This meant that if you got afraid and ran away, and you went home, then the people at home would be saying, "Well, where's Han and all the other guys?" And you'd be, "Oh, I left them." And so it would be quite embarrassing for you. And so one of the ways of boosting morale was to get them all in the same unit. So the British used it with the PALS regiments in the First World War. We did something slightly similar with some of the yeomanry units. You put the people from the same town together. And the idea is it boosts morale and it makes you sort of afraid of breaking and running away. So we included that as a rule, which basically means that all infantry sections can make one morale reroll during the game. So at any point you take a morale roll, you want to re-roll it, you can do. Unfortunately, the second morale roll will count, because maybe your entire family decide to do a runner. So you might only just lose, and then re-roll the morale, and then they go, yeah, actually we'll do a runner, we'll just leave. And it could be worse than you want. So that is another special rule we've added for ourselves, because it's quite a good rule. We thought that would be quite an interesting thing to have the army do. And it reflects reality. So that's all I've really got to say on it. So now it's over to Mr. Question.
Mr. Question have no questions.
You have no questions at all?
No questions at all.
Right.
I mean, what questions could you ask for an infantry unit?
Well, what about the history of it?
You explain the whole history.
Okay, there we go.
I mean, whenever I get a question, you end up answering 5 of them before you ask me some questions.
The next units I'm wanting to add to the army is some Dare to Die units, who were suicide troops. They strapped explosives to themselves, usually hand grenades, and they would throw themselves under tanks or just jump into enemy platoons. One guy killed 20 Japanese soldiers.
How?
In Shanghai. He hid until the Japanese platoon was walking past, and then he just stepped out and detonated himself. Basically a suicide bomber. Just, the average.
But it succeeded though, so it's probably a suicide bomber.
Well, he was a suicide bomber. He blew himself up. That's what they did.
Yeah, come on.
What?
You're saying that the whole army was like that?
No. Death troops were. They were volunteers.
So, was it a unit, or was it just...
Yeah, they operated as full units. Not full 14-man squads. They would usually operate as a 7-man team.
Skirmishers?
Yeah, there would be a 7-man team. And one of them was an officer who would either choose the targets or he would report back how the men died.
That's nice.
No, it's an incentive. But basically, you would have your 6 men, and they would all charge some Japanese tanks or Russian tanks. The Russians suffered very badly from it.
They say there was a guy on like a podium writing down how everyone died.
Yeah, like a Russian commissar. And a Soviet tank unit was driving through a town, and this squad attacked the tank unit and took all 3 tanks out. This 6-man suicide squad. And the 7th guy is usually armed with a machine gun to give cover fire to the attackers, and that guy would report back and say how well they died, and then their families would get money and shiny things in payment for their service. It's an incentives program. Just like the kamikaze pilots, you know, the moment you got into the plane as a kamikaze,
Yeah, I know about that, yeah.
you became a god. Literally, people would pray to you. You would be a god. So, hey, do you want to volunteer to fly into a ship? Well, no, not really. You get to be a god. Really? Oh, well, that sounds fun. Yeah, genuinely, that's what they did. So you got extra food, you got extra rations, everyone patted you on the back and told you how cool you were. You got loads of stuff. Unfortunately, you had to jump in front of a tank and blow yourself up, which was the downside.
So you never actually got to experience the
plane? No. But given that they were Muslim, you got 72 virgins at the end of the day. So that was nice. So you get to blow up some Russians or some Japanese soldiers. Your family gets a load of cash, and you get a medal. I don't know, after being dead, you get a posthumous medal, and then you get to live in heaven with all your little...
Turn out to be alive.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who'd kill you for saying that.
I know.
This is the modern world.
No one knows where I am.
No.
I'm safe.
So, basically they wanted to go to heaven, and they died in order to go to heaven. There are many passages of the Quran that tell you to do exactly that, and it's very handy having Muslims in your army because they become very good soldiers. One thing that Hitler mentioned about Islam wasn't that they were brilliant or anything, which is what a lot of internet sites seem to say for some reason, but he did say they made good soldiers. He said they made very good soldiers. He says it's a shame that the Western civilization has made men weak, which is quite true. We've spent the last 2,000 years executing criminals.
Yeah.
Yeah, which means we've taken the toughest and strongest out of the gene pool. Meaning the people left are sort of beta males.
They're criminals.
Yeah, they're criminals, but you bear in mind in war...
They have the brain cell of an imp.
No, not true at all. You need criminals in war. You need men who will kill. You need men who have the ability to kill. How many men do you have in an actual infantry platoon that actually kill people? Very few. In the German army, it was roughly 2 men would ever kill anyone.
But we don't even kill prisoners anymore, so...
Well, of course we don't kill prisoners.
Exactly, so...
That's the Geneva Convention.
What's the point?
And anyway, there was a convention of not killing prisoners before that. It's always been the case that generally you don't kill prisoners. And I know there's always times, hey, that person killed prisoners. But generally, armies don't kill prisoners. And the reason they don't is because your men might get taken prisoner. So if you kill them...
They know that you killed his friend,
yeah.
So he's going to kill you because you killed him.
Yeah. Whereas you take the Chinese and the Japanese in the Second World War, the Japanese took Chinese prisoners. And the Chinese took Japanese prisoners. And when the war started, the Chinese executed all of the prisoners because they happened to be troops of the 26th Division, and they cut the heads off of all the Japanese soldiers. And the Japanese won the battle and found all these dead bodies and went, right, they're having it. And then when they captured Chinese soldiers, they cut their heads off. And you know what? It turned into a big head cutting off war.
Is that where American theory came from when they said that they killed prisoners?
Well, no. The Japanese did take lots of Chinese prisoners, and some survived the war. Many survived the war. Many Chinese prisoners were a bit like with the Germans, with the Russians. They were given the option of basically joining the Japanese army. And you could join the Japanese army, and they're just like, here's your rifle back, go and stand over there. Because there were a lot of Chinese who didn't like the nationalist government. And so there were also Chinese who didn't like the communist government either. Of course, if you're Muslim... And
they were currently having a civil war, weren't they?
Yeah, they were having a civil war. They've been fighting a civil war since 1911.
Unlucky.
Yeah. And that's why China was so weak, so Japan could attack it in the first place.
And they've always been arch enemies anyway.
Yeah. No. They only became arch enemies after the Manchus took over. The Qin dynasty... The Ming dynasty was always very favourable to the Japanese, and the Japanese, even got to the point of sending troops to help the Ming, but the Ming lost so quickly, the Japanese troops arrived too late, the Ming had been destroyed. And the Manchus didn't like the Japanese. They really didn't like the Japanese.
Well,
and so, no, Taiping were a different civil war. It's just, the Taiping was the rebellion against the occupying Manchu forces. The Qing forces.
Did they win?
Taiping, no. No. Well, look, do you know this in Beijing there's a huge statue to the men who fought in the revolution, and at the bottom of the statue are some Taiping soldiers. Because as far as the revolutionaries are concerned, the communists were concerned who now run the country, the rebellion really began with the Taiping revolt. That's when they say it began. Officially, it began in 1911. Officially, when the Ming dynasty, when the Qing dynasty collapsed, that's when the rebellion started. The day after the Qing dynasty collapsed, it was one of the most impressive collapses of an empire ever. Basically, the emperor just said, quit. And that was it. The empire's over. And the day after, some idiot declares himself prime minister, and then some other idiot declares himself a prime minister, and then you have a civil war going on. One lot were communists, the other lot were called nationalist Chinese, most of them were Muslim.
Well, we just vote out.
Yeah, but we weren't in that situation.
Well, if we were, we'd just vote it out. We wouldn't fight each other.
Well, yeah, we did. The English Civil War was, what, 350 years ago, the English Civil War? We pretty much fought it out then. 10% of English people died in the Civil War.
That's when we didn't have brains.
No, we did have brains. We were fighting for, on one side we were fighting for whether or not Britain would be a religious country, and on the other side they were fighting for whether or not it would be a democracy. And both sides lost. We ended up with Cromwell.
Both sides are good.
Really? You want Britain to be run by the prayer book?
It was for a very long time.
Yes, it was for a very long time, and it wasn't a brilliant place to live, was it? That's why there was a rebellion.
That's why because there were Christians and Catholics.
There weren't that many Catholics by then. Most of them had been burnt at the stakes.
The Queen's made it a big thing.
Yeah, so the same happened in England. It's just it took a lot longer to happen in China. And to be honest, the Muslims had pushed it a little bit too far. People had had enough of all that stuff that was going on.
I mean,
the warlord era China was truly a horrific place to live.
If you were for civil tongue.
I am in difficulty.
If it wasn't for Christianity.
Christianity, yeah.
We wouldn't have had crusades.
Did we get born stupid?
No. What Christianity? We wouldn't have had crusades.
If you had to have Christianity, you wouldn't have Islam.
And you wouldn't have crusades.
You were born stupid, weren't you?
No, look. Just see if it's near the Bible.
Well, yeah, that's one of the things. But look, basically, Christianity is based on the Judaic religion, the Abrahamic religion, and it's a sort of westernized version of the Abrahamic religion. What came out of Christianity? Well, Islam did, because the Quran is basically a carbon copy of the Bible with some stuff that Muhammad said added on. Right? So read the book.
He cracked the moon in half.
Yeah, Muhammad flew to the moon and cracked it in half on a winged horse. Sorry, if you don't believe that, you can't be Muslim. So you have to believe everything the Quran says if you're Muslim. So no, Muslims are Christians. Sorry, it's just a thing.
They're going to get killed now.
No, they are. There's very little difference between the two religions, apart from the fact that with Christianity it ends with Jesus, and with Islam it ends with Muhammad. Basically, Muhammad added stuff, said, I have things that I think, and people do what he says, which is unpleasant because he wasn't a very nice human being. In fact, if he lived in Britain today, he would be in prison. In fact, if he lived anywhere today, he would be in prison, apart from 60 countries, which... Okay. In fact, in most of those countries, he'd be in prison as well, to be honest.
Can we end this video now?
No,
we ain't talking about Chinese anymore.
Yes, but it is about the Chinese, isn't it? This is the whole point. So the Chinese army was a very, very good army, and it gets a lot of stick. It was the Chinese army that stopped the Japanese. It pinned down 80% of the Japanese forces. We were fighting the little men on the side.
And the Japanese were still winning.
Not after Chenga. After Chenga, Japan was basically fighting a rearguard for the rest of the war. They did do some operations to expand their territory, but it didn't gain them anything. After Chenga, really, just like Germany after Stalingrad, the war was over. You can't lose a third of your army and expect to win the war. Not in the situation that we're in. How did we get onto that whole drift
No
off and
idea.
talk about stuff? No, it's your fault. You do this questioning thing.
No, you did this.
No, you started talking
You
about
started
Taiping.
this.
You started talking about Taiping again, and you shouldn't.
Yeah, I said Taiping, and then you started going about other things to do Taiping, and then we made this entire. We're saying it's not really. We were talking about England. It's not really China. Oh God.
So the Chinese army is one of the forgotten heroes of the Second World War, which is why I do it, because I read stuff about the Chinese and I went, what, the Chinese were in the war? What? Seriously? Lost how many million men? I can't remember how many million men they lost. 10 million, I think. And that's just the army. It's just, they even started the people who died of plague. So, the Chinese were a massive part of the war and started the war 3 years earlier than the rest of us. So, that's basically, hopefully, all I've got to say on the matter. We did drift off on one. One does apologise, but the small one keeps asking these
Stop blaming me.
Oh, you do. You keep.
This was you.
What did this have to do with Taiping? You're doing it.
I said Taiping, and then you carried on talking about John.
Yeah, because you asked me to explain things.
I didn't ask you to explain it.
And then you said that if it wasn't for Christianity, they wouldn't have been the Crusades. Well, if it weren't for Christianity, it wouldn't be Islam. And the Crusades the Crusades were a direct response to the invasion of Muslim armies into Christendom. All those Muslim countries today were Christian. Oh, the ones in the Middle East and North Africa were Christian, and they became Muslim because the Muslims conquered them. Not difficult to work out. I don't understand why people have an issue with this, but it's got absolutely nothing to do with the war in China. So, any more questions before we finish the video? On the Chinese, not on Taiping, not on anything else, just on the Chinese army.
No.
Are you sure?
I'm very sure.
Right. So, as I said, these troops can be used for the Chinese Nationalist Reserve troops or the Martlique 26th Division. That's basically it. I have really enjoyed doing this as an army project. We do have a few units to add. As I said, I want some Dare to Die troops. Keep your mouth shut, don't talk. Some Dare to Die troops, and I would like some troops equipped with swords and stuff, swords and halberds and things. Which I think would make the army a little bit more interesting. So that's my ideas. You may now talk. You may now talk. Yeah.
Hi.
So that's it.
So, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe, and comment down below any questions that you have on the Nationalist Infantry of China, and me or Impact Vespasian will answer the question. That's everything from me.
And that's everything from him. I finished. Good day. I hope you enjoyed the video so far, and goodbye.